22 minutes to 8.
Other matters entirely, because no sooner has one reality television show shrunk into a blip on our television screens than another flares into life. Well, Britain's Got Talent has, of course, just ended, but the 10th series of Big Brother starts later this week. Clearly, still an appetite for these programmes, despite the headlines that we've seen and we see year upon year, and of course featuring ordinary people.
How healthy is it, though, to be in one of these shows? Susan Boyle, the Britain's Got Talent runner-up, has spent a second night at a London clinic, reportedly suffering from anxiety.
Well, how do reality television stars cope with the pressure of overnight fame? Rafe's here. He was in The Apprentice last year. Here too, psychologist Linda Papadopoulos. Hello, good morning, both of you. Well, Linda, let's start with you and just your assessment, your views on the scenes that we've seen and the reports that we've seen the last few days.
Look, I don't think it was surprising at all. You know, I mean, it's been said 100 times, you take someone from complete anonymity, you put them in this situation that quick, it was bound to happen. Now, what compounded the fact was that allegedly Susan Boyle has a learning difficulty. If you have some sort of cognitive deficit, your ability to cope with things is going to be different. You're going to need different coping strategies and mechanisms, which is why a lot of these shows assess people before they go on. Now, I think a show like Britain's Got Talent, it was very unexpected. You don't assume it's the same thing as Big Brother, for example, where someone's going to be having fame for, you know, over an extended period, or even like The Apprentice to some extent. So there was a sense that this was the first time, and I think this is the thing about reality TV. It's been going on for about 10 years, but I think we're still learning every year what we need to do.
I mean, Rafe, The Apprentice was slightly different in a number of ways, but particularly because it was recorded, and you weren't voted off by the public, so subjected to that. But you also were presumably under some significant public pressure when the programme was going out and things were written about you in the papers.
Absolutely. I mean, you're completely right. There's reality television and then there's reality TV. The Apprentice, for me, hasn't fitted very well with that whole reality TV segment. But I was incredibly, I remember I think it was for 2 or 3 days, I was pretty much in self-imposed house arrest because I didn't want to go out and be in the middle of all that attention. And, you know, I'm a very confident guy, and we got a lot of psychological help on the show, and, you know, there was no negligence on the part of the producers and executives. But still, I don't think there was enough media teaching, I think.
Can you stop someone, Linda? I mean, Talkback, according to the Mail today, have admitted that contestants aren't psychologically tested. They say that they are going to review that policy. But a number of issues raised. One about the age of contestants. Should it be increased? I think on sort of Pop Idol, they've gone up to sort of 16 from 14. Of course, we've had a 10-year-old on this programme. And Len Goodman made the point yesterday, talking about Strictly, that celebrities who'll go on talk about it being the most nerve-wracking experience they've ever had, and that's dancing, and that's one-off, and they're celebrities, they're supposed to be used to it. So what sort of support should people be getting, and should people be vetted and stopped from going on these sorts of shows?
To me, it's all about assessment. You know, I think the great thing about these shows is that they are open to everyone, but there's, you know what, I'm sure a 15-year-old with, you know, from London with stage school training would have done a lot better, a 14-year-old, than Susan Boyle in terms of coping, simply because she would have had that media literacy, she would have had, you know, she would have been buffered. So I think if you do the right assessments, number one, you have the right sense of who, you know, of what people need. And number two, you can at least explain to them what to expect. And that's the other big thing. I think we're sold celebrity in our culture as something that everyone should want, and that it's this wonderful thing. And no one really has sat down and said, you know what, there's a whole other side. And if you're not able to separate what is said about you from what you really are, and of course younger people or people with learning difficulties are going to have a harder time doing this.
But it's also not what is said about you, but also in effect what you say about yourself, because when you are subjected to, you know, constant viewing by the cameras, you know, stuff's going to come out you're not going to be particularly happy with.
Of course, we are, in that sense, all victims of the editing suite, and you know, there are things that are said in jest that suddenly are completely turned on their head, and you're made to look like Mr. Nasty. And when that happens, you're completely and utterly ill-prepared.
To what extent were you vetted before you went on the program?
The Apprentice is terrific at vetting. I can't speak for all other shows, but, you know, we had psychological testing, we had meetings with executives, we had meetings with producers, And this was all trying to figure out whether or not we were suitable for not only the show, but whether or not we were suitable for the pressure that comes after the show.
The thing is the sort of kookiness, it's the eccentricity that producers know makes good television. And the big question and being asked today, of course, is are we just getting the television that we deserve? We're all complicit in this. 18.5, 19 million watched on Saturday night. Are we all complicit? And, you know, is there going to be an end to it? We think there's not going to be any more room for another Big Brother, and yet here we are at the start of the 10th series.
And actually, it's not just about the vetting. It is about the media. It is about what we're writing and talking about as well. It's
still unknown territory, really, isn't it, that we're finding out about. Thank you both very much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. It's 7:43. You're watching Breakfast from BBC News. The main stories then this morning.